Blood pooled beneath the hooves of Roman cavalry. Dust choked the air as cries of dying soldiers echoed across the Syrian plain. At the center of it all, a man in gleaming armor stood tall, his eyes fixed on the walls of Palmyra, unflinching, relentless. His name was Aurelian, and he wasn't just here to crush a rebellion. He was here to pull an empire back from the abyss. The year was 270 CE. Rome, the eternal city, was rotting from within and crumbling from without. For nearly 5 decades, emperors had risen and fallen like autumn leaves, some reigning for mere weeks before being stabbed, strangled, poisoned, or abandoned. Barbarians battered the frontiers, plague withered the population. Armies declared their own generals as emperors, fracturing the empire into warring states. Rome was dying. And then, from the swirling chaos, emerged a soldier, hard-eyed, iron-willed, and utterly uncompromising, Lucius Domitius Aurelianus. Born to a peasant family in what is now modern-day Serbia, Aurelian clawed his way up the ranks of the Roman military through sheer brutality, brilliance, and the kind of unflinching discipline that could get a man both feared and followed. By the time he was declared emperor, the empire had effectively broken into 3 parts: the core Roman Empire, the Gallic Empire in the west, and the Palmyrene Empire in the east. But Aurelian didn't inherit a throne. He seized it, and he wasn't about to rule over a shattered carcass. He would restore it, or die trying. And yet, what's astonishing isn't just what Aurelian did, but how fast he did it. In less than 5 years, he would reunite the empire, reform its economy, beat back foreign invasions, and lay the foundations for Rome's survival for another 2 centuries. He would even earn the title Restitutor Orbis, the restorer of the world. And then, just when he seemed invincible, he would be betrayed in the most Roman of ways, with lies, paranoia, and a dagger in the back. Before we continue, if this content is valuable to you, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, allowing all notifications so you will not miss new content when it is released. Now let's continue. Aurelian's rise was anything but glamorous. He was a soldier's soldier. He trained harder, fought fiercer, and punished failure with an almost sadistic glee. Stories of his discipline spread like wildfire. One legend claims he executed an entire unit for cowardice on the spot. To his men, he was a god of war. To his enemies, a demon in bronze. And he needed every ounce of that terror when the Goths surged across the Danube in 271 CE, pillaging the Balkans. Rome's borders had collapsed. Instead of retreating or negotiating, Aurelian charged. He crushed the Gothic invasion, killing thousands and forcing peace without a single concession. But he wasn't done. Next came the Euthungi, a Germanic tribe that had the audacity to invade Italy itself. Rome, vulnerable and unguarded, had never felt so close to total collapse. And here, Aurelian faced a nightmare scenario. A barbarian horde headed straight for the capital. In a desperate, bloody battle near the Metaurus River, Aurelian barely eked out a victory. But the trauma ran deep. And so, he made a radical decision, one that no emperor before him had dared. He would wall off the Eternal City. The Aurelian walls, still standing in parts of modern Rome, were a shocking admission that the empire's heart was no longer safe. But it was also a testament to Aurelian's pragmatism. Pride be damned. He would defend Rome with bricks and blood. With Italy secure, he turned east. And this is where Aurelian's legend truly begins. The Palmyrene Empire was no mere rebellion. It was an eastern juggernaut ruled by Queen Zenobia, a brilliant strategist and charismatic ruler who had carved out a domain stretching from Egypt to Turkey. She claimed descent from Cleopatra and called herself Augusta. Her son, the boy king Vaballathus, was declared emperor. To Aurelian, this wasn't politics, this was treason. His campaign against Zenobia was swift, surgical, and brutal. Marching across Anatolia, he shattered Palmyrene forces in battle after battle. At the decisive clash near Emesa, modern-day Homs, his legions faced off against Zenobia's cavalry, arguably the finest in the east. Aurelian feigned retreat, drew them into a trap, and broke them. Palmyra fell. Zenobia tried to flee to the Persians, but was captured at the Euphrates. Aurelian, in a rare moment of mercy or perhaps propaganda, spared her life. Some say she was paraded through Rome in golden chains, forced to bow before the emperor she defied. Others claim she lived out her days in quiet exile, a prisoner of history. Either way, Aurelian had done the impossible. He restored the eastern provinces without burning them to ash. But he wasn't finished. To the west, the Gallic Empire, an offshoot, ruled by breakaway generals, still stood defiant. In 274 CE, Aurelian turned his gaze westward and met the rebel emperor Tetricus in battle near modern-day Chalon in France. Here's where it gets strange. Tetricus, possibly fearing death or simply exhausted by rebellion, secretly wrote to Aurelian before the battle, asking to be rescued. The two met on the battlefield, but not as enemies. Tetricus surrendered mid-fight, handing the empire back like a man too tired to care. It was bloodless, unbelievable, and decisive. Aurelian now stood alone, undisputed master of a reunified Roman Empire. Three empires had become one. The world had been restored. He returned to Rome, triumphant, basking in glory, hosting lavish games and erecting monuments to his success. Coins were minted with his face. He reformed the currency, curbed corruption, and planned a massive military campaign against Persia that could have changed the balance of power in the ancient world. And then, in a twist Shakespeare would have envied, he died. Not in battle, not from disease, but from lies. One of his secretaries, fearing punishment for a forged document, panicked. Instead of confessing, he spread a rumor that Aurelian was compiling a list of officials to be executed. Paranoia spread like wildfire, and before anyone could verify it, a group of senior officers, terrified for their lives, struck first. They stabbed Aurelian to death on the road to Persia. He was 61 years old, the man who saved Rome, murdered by his own men. When the truth came out, it was too late. The officers who had plunged their daggers into his flesh realized the list didn't exist. Aurelian hadn't been planning executions. He had been planning an empire. His death left a vacuum, but his legacy endured. He bought Rome time, precious, irreplaceable time. The empire he restored would limp on for nearly 2 more centuries. Without him, it might have collapsed in the third. He is not as famous as Augustus, as notorious as Nero, or as iconic as Julius Caesar. But in terms of sheer impact, measured by actions, not myths, Aurelian might just be the greatest Roman emperor you've never heard of. a peasant soldier who rose from nothing, a warlord who became a statesman, a tyrant to his enemies, and a savior to his people. Ruthless, efficient, and tragically human. He restored the world and paid for it with his life. Rome was eternal, but not invincible, and for one fleeting moment in a sea of chaos, Aurelian made it whole again. And that is no small feat.